this video is for you if you're experiencing a ton of drama in your life and you're ready to remove that drama. This is a concept that completely changed my life, and I'm going to share it with you today. It is called the drama triangle. What ends up happening for us as men or as humans of any kind is we tend to play into the drama that occurs for us in our life. And there's a way out of it. I'm going to share that way with you in just a moment. But first, you really have to understand a few core concepts, right? So if we think about a triangle, there's 3 points to a triangle. And it doesn't matter which point is where, but one of those points would be the victim, okay? So consider for yourself, firstly, as we go into this, I'm gonna tell you about it, but I'm also gonna get you to feel into this in your own life. See if you can consider any place in your life that you've identified as a victim. And I'll give you a few examples, see if they resonate with you. A time that someone maybe broke up with you and you blamed them, or a time that you didn't want to clean the house and you said, why do I have to do this? Why me? And you got kind of like whiny about it, right? Like victim-y. Or a time that you got in trouble, maybe by a teacher or a boss, or maybe even your wife or something, and you started to be like, well, no, I didn't do it, and why are you blaming me? And you got really kind of victim-y, right? Or you injured yourself. Maybe you broke a bone or you got sick and you just said, why me? Why I always get sick? I'm gonna miss the hockey game. You went into victim mode. Okay, so clear distinction that I have to make here is that sometimes we are victims, right? Like abuse, assault. There are times that we are victims. And what I'm talking about is not a circumstance as much as it is a mindset. So I need you to just parse those two out for a moment and start to understand the difference between the two, right? One is a scenario, the other is a mindset. And I'm talking about the mindset. So the mindset of a victim is one in which you believe that you were wronged and there is also a villain involved. So you're vilifying someone else or something else. It's just life. We're making life the villain. Story that's playing out, right? So it's important to understand that all of this is a story. All of life, in fact, is a story that you're writing. And sometimes we all get caught in the victim mindset, right? We're kind of writing the script and we are the victim. So at first, I just want you to identify a time in your life where you felt that, where you felt like you were a victim. It could have been yesterday, it could have been last week, it could have been when you were younger. Just note that we all have this somewhere in our life, times that we've been a victim. I'm not making this right, I'm not making this wrong, I'm just wanting you to identify exactly when it happened. Okay, so that is one point of the triangle, right? The second point of the triangle would be the villain. Sometimes we feel like the villain, or we get made the villain, or sometimes we make someone else the villain. Anytime any of these 3 points are present, we're entering into the victim, villain, savior triangle. I'll explain the savior in just a moment. Consider for yourself any time that in your life there's been vilification. Sometimes someone will vilify you, Your wife is like, hey, how come you didn't turn off the oven? Or, hey, you wronged me. you lied to me, or you said this thing, or you raised your voice, or you feel like you're a villain in the sense that you have guilt, you've carried something where you're making yourself a bad guy, right? Or a bad person. Or the times in your life that you've villainized someone else, right? You've said that your ex-partner was just toxic, right? We've all been there to some degree. Or your boss is just the worst person ever. Like, not even talking about what they did, but you're talking about who they are. Like, they're the worst. So just identify times in your life where there's been villain mentality, right? A villain in the story, in your perception of life. And sometimes someone else plays the villain. Sometimes we play the villain in the mind story that plays out. The third one is in relation to the victim and the villain. So all three of these are in relation to one another, like a triangle. And the third one is the Savior. So the Savior, which can be a whole personality, right? All of these can be full personalities. We can really identify as a victim or a villain or a savior. The part of you that maybe identifies with the one that makes things right, the one that pulls people out of victim mentality, the one that crucifies the villain, the one that, serves justice to the villain, the one that makes sure that nothing happens to the ones that are the victims in our story. Maybe you had a partner that you believed couldn't handle their own emotions. You had to quickly jump in and save them and make sure that they didn't feel too much. Or you had a parent that you thought could really introduce them to personal development work or to therapy, and you're gonna really invest in their personal development and their therapy, and you really play that role of the savior. Or someone that just really can't make it in life, and you even maybe sacrifice your own life and your own well-being to really save this person or to help them. Or maybe there's someone suffering with addiction in your family or in your life, and you somehow keep enabling it, or you're doing everything you can to try to pull them out of that, right? You start to become the savior. Or maybe you've seen this in other people, right? Maybe you've felt a little victimized yourself, and you look to other people to save you, and you look for reassurance from other people, and you almost understand yourself in such a way where you live in some degree of victimhood until someone else tells you that it's okay, right? So you make someone else a savior in that story. So again, all of this is not about right or wrong. So I want you to just take the right and wrong out of the equation here and just notice it for what it is. Times in your life that you've played into the victim, the villain, or the savior. And this is what we call the drama triangle, by the way. So this triangle really changed my life when I understood these concepts. And it's where we, in our life, fall into one of those three categories. And sometimes we're even in relational dynamics where other people place us in the, say, villain role. And then we really take that on and we play into that, right? We start to say, no, I'm not a villain. I'm actually the savior in this story. Or I'm not a villain. I'm actually the one that's hurt here. I'm a victim, right? And we really start to identify. The important thing to note is that anytime that we identify or play into this victim, villain, savior triangle, we're inducing drama into our life. We, are sick of the drama in our life, yet it feels very familiar to us because maybe we grew up and started to identify with one of these three roles, right? The victim, the villain, or the savior. For myself, it was the savior, right? I really identified as that in a lot of ways. And it caused me a lot of drama, and it caused me to really get absorbed into other people's drama, right? Because I was trying to save them. And guess what? It was much easier to direct my attention outward at other people and try to fix their problems and avoid really looking at my own. So these different tendencies, these different points to the drama triangle can be very seductive in the sense that they can create avoidance from our own internal world and our own internal work, right? We get caught up in the drama so we don't have to really look at self. Now, I'm going to tell you how to get out of this drama triangle and to practice different roles whenever you're in either of these three, the victim role, the villain role, or the savior role. Okay, let's start with the victim. So the victim, the opposite of the victim, is actually the creator. We flip the drama triangle into the empowerment triangle. Instead of being a victim of life, we can step into being a creator of life. And what that really means is that when life gives us lemons, we make lemonade. When there's the unknown, do we slip into victimhood? Or do we say, I'm comfortable in not knowing, and it feels scary at times, but I can make it through. And we come up against our limits or our perceived limits. I previously thought I couldn't. Can I? So it's this inner dialogue of I can create from this. I use this a lot in my relationship when I'm having relationship trouble. Like, this is really hard right now. I think about turning it into content. Granted, I'm a relationship coach, so using my own relationship and transforming that into content, it makes a lot of sense. But whether you're a relationship coach or a content creator or otherwise, you can always think as a creator. Say you're having trouble in your relationship, well, maybe you can write about it. Think about the concepts of like, wow, what must be happening here for this other person? Here's what's happening for me. Here's my internal experience. How can I create art out of this? Find your creative outlet. Instead of falling victim to life, it's really about how can I take this and transform it into something beautiful? How can I alchemize the pain into love? Truly. There's a great practice my mentor taught me, which is inhale pain, exhale love, which is, totally contrary to what most New Age spirituality will teach you, right? It's like inhale love, exhale pain. But in this way, it's actually let the pain in. Notice that when you let it in, you can transform it and turn it into love. You have the power to do that within you. So that's the practice of switching from victim to the creator. Next one, which is the villain, is transformed to the challenger. Sometimes people who just challenge people get perceived as the villain. And it's not always true, right? Sometimes people who are just challenging others really want the best for them. So it's really about clarifying that with others and say, I really want the best for you, and this is why I'm firm in this. I'm saying this out of love and that I know you have the potential to be great. Here's why I want this for you. And I know it's hard, but this is what you're capable of, and this is what I see in you. So The challenger is really about aligned action. It's, in my mind, the conscious warrior, the one that can have a healthy relationship to anger and be very assertive. The difference between something like anger and rage, okay? I believe that anger is a very healthy emotion, incredibly healthy. But rage is not. And I'll tell you why. The difference between anger and rage is awareness. I can be really angry and say, I'm angry right now. And I'm like, I'm in control. I'm really aware that I'm in control of the one thing that I am in control of, which is me. Rage is when we've lost control. We've let the anger take over, the fires burn too big, and we have no control over our actions, our words, our temper. The fire's gotten out of control. So rage is when we've totally lost ourselves. Not very conscious. The challenger can have assertiveness, can know where the boundary is, right? If he or she has to protect his family or himself, he knows how to like turn it on and say, back the fuck up. But he's not always going around doing that. He just knows when to do that. And this can be actually a really mature, healthy thing, is to know where your boundaries are and to have a firm understanding of those boundaries. So there's a healthy version, which is called the challenger. And it's all about aligned action, healthy boundaries, a healthy relationship with anger, really knowing how to challenge people to get the best out of them, or knowing when someone else is in the challenger role and getting the best out of you. Can we see other people as one of those roles, right? Either the challenger or the creator, or the last one, which we'll talk about in just a moment, which is the coach. This one's my favorite because, like I said earlier, I used to be someone who was totally a savior. And I had to really transform that into being someone who is now a coach. I'm a men's work coach, a relationship coach, and the coaching role feels really good because I get to help people, not save them, but I get to help people. And it has a very similar frequency to saving them. The only difference is I'm not abandoning myself. I'm not overextending myself. I'm staying firm and neutral and centered while supporting others. And there's a huge difference. It's very subtle in the felt sensations and in the body, but there's a huge difference. So the difference being that as a coach rather than a savior, I see what other people are capable of. The savior would really not believe that they're capable of making it on their own, or not believe that they can support themselves. The coach really can sit back comfortably and say, you've got this. I know it's really hard, or I know it's really painful, but you've got this. And I see that you're capable. I don't have to jump in to change anything about you. Sure, when I have the capacity to support you and help you, and there's reciprocity involved, right? People pay me for coaching services. We can rise together. A very important difference between the savior and the coach. And anytime you fall into drama, if you notice drama, or you notice the savior or the victim or the villain coming online in yourself or anyone else, you can consciously stop, pause, pull yourself out of that, and choose another way. It's something that you probably have to work on daily until you start to understand in your own self and in your relational dynamics, in your relationships. Sometimes you got to teach people, hey, I notice we're kind of slipping into this dynamic here where I'm the victim and you're the villain, and I just want to like notice that and pull us out of that, because I think we have a much greater potential, and I want us to both be able to have healthy boundaries and love ourselves and really work well together and make it through this without going into drama and the looping and the big emotional responses, right? Let's stay conscious in this and let's do that together. So sometimes you also have to teach people, but I'm telling you, when you're able to do this, when you're able to pull yourself out of this, it will change your entire life, your entire perspective on relationships, and it really heals a lot to do this work. If you're interested in more of this work and what it's like to actually embody this and to practice this either with your partner or on your own, you can reach out to me. I offer coaching services for one-on-ones or for couples work, and really can help change your life in just a couple of sessions, especially when you work on this together with your partner. So let me know what you think. What dynamics do you tend to fall into, and what will really help you on your journey of repatterning some of this?